Okay, so as I was mentioning today, what we're going to do is factoring, okay? So factoring means to break up the number of mathematical terms into smaller parts that can be multiplied together to create the original number of mathematical terms. Okay, so factoring means breaking down, and I think sometimes when we say factor, some of you don't, quite understand. Y'all did it in elementary school with, you just multiplication facts. You just broke them down. So like that's kind of what we're doing here. What are the factors of 12? Okay, 3 and 4. Good. What else? 6 and 2, and what else? 12 and 1. So any of those numbers right there are factors of 12. Okay, so in algebra, it means that things like x plus 3, okay, could be a factor. It might not just be a number. Okay, so x plus 3 and x plus 1 are factors of x squared plus 4x plus 3. So that's a factor, that's a factor. Okay, so I think one thing that really gets on y'all's nerves is the whole signs, the add, the plus, and the minus. I think that kind of throws y'all off a little bit. Okay, so here we have what multiplies to 12 that adds to 7. What would that be? 3 and 4. Okay, you don't have to do grouping when there's not a leading coefficient here. Okay? So that was easy because they were both positive numbers. When they're both positive, when it's a positive here, that means the signs are alike. They're either both negative or they're either both positive. Okay? And this sign right here drives and tells you what it is. Okay? So these are both positive. These are going to be both negative. So it's a plus right here, so that means they're both the same sign. Same sign. Okay? So, what are they here? What multiplies to 12 that adds to negative 7? Yeah, negative 4 and negative 3. Now, over here, this means what we're doing the same thing. What multiplies to 12 that adds to 1, but the signs are going to be different. And it also means, hey, you're not really adding, you're kind of subtracting in a way. So, okay, so what does multiply to 12 that has a difference of 1? 4 and 3, okay? Then you've got to get the signs right. So the largest number is going to get this sign. The two numbers that you picked, the largest number of those two numbers you picked will get that sign. So 4 is larger than 3, so it gets that sign. And if you don't like thinking of it that way, some of you just are able to just do it, without thinking through that. But some of y'all need that little trick. Okay, now, if you're unsure, you stop and think, and you check it, not think, but check it. 4 times negative 3, okay, is negative 12. Then 4 minus 3 is a positive 1, okay? And so then down here, the signs are going to be different because that negative right here says the signs are different. And so, but they have to add up to a negative 1. Okay? So a lot of you are pretty good at this, but some of you still need to work on it. One reason is you kind of are weak with your multiplication facts, so it's to your advantage to work on that. And I'm hoping that today will help that out a little bit. So let's just do a couple of more of these. What multiplies that adds? Okay? What multiplies that adds would be what? To 10. What multiplies to 10 that adds to 11 would be what? What would it be? 10 and 1. Good. Okay? What multiplies to 32 that adds to negative 12? Yeah, 8 and 4. But what kind of an 8 and what kind of a 4? Yeah, they're both negative. Good job. Okay, this means they're both the same. They're either going to both be positive or both be negative. That plus in front of the 32, the positive 32. Oh, they're both going to be negative. Okay, so down here, what multiplies to negative 6 that adds to negative 5? Now, 3 and 2 do make a 5, and they do make a 6. This is a tricky set of numbers to deal with. Okay, but you have to be careful. Okay, yeah, 6 and 1. But it's going to be a plus 1 and a minus 6. Okay, I've missed that one before myself because I've been going too fast. And the whole 6, when 6 is the one that you're trying to factor and find the multiples of it, it's real easy to miss that. So you have to kind of slow down on those 6s. And then this one would be what? Yeah, you know the signs are going to be different. The largest one gets this sign right here where the 3 is. Okay, so positive 8, negative 5. Check it. Oh, yeah, that's negative 40. Do I have the minus part right? 8 minus 5 is positive 3. Okay, now these down here, sometimes y'all freak out on these binomials, and they're super easy. That's why we put them on here, because they're so easy, and you don't want to miss them. So what you first do is see what will they'll both divide by. In other words, finding the GCF. Okay, what will 4x squared and negative 12x both divide by? A 4 and an x, right? Okay, so when you divide them, what do you get? X, because the 4's cancel out, and then the x's cancel out here, which leaves you with a negative 3. And if you are unsure, distribute it back and check it and see, okay? So here, what do they both divide by? An x, and you get an x plus 3. Okay, what do they both divide by here? A negative 2. You want to make sure if your leading term is a negative, you want to make sure you divide by a negative, because you don't want a negative inside the parentheses right here. Okay? Negative 2, then you get x squared plus 8. Oops, I forgot my x. Yep, got to get that x in there, okay? Okay, and the reason I noticed that myself is because I was standing here. You couldn't see me doing it, but I was standing here kind of double checking this right here in my head, and I noticed it, okay? And then at about that same time, somebody else is noticing it too. So it's a good thing to do. Now, these are some special cases. These are difference of 2 squares. And these are the easiest ones in the whole wide world, and for some reason, y'all don't get them right. Oh, yeah. I was already thinking about the next thing. Yes. Okay, so let me fix that up here. And this Promethean board is so slow. Okay. Now, is that better? Okay, so back to this one. These are difference of 2 squares. It has to be a difference problem. It has to be subtract. You have to have 2 terms. And you have to be able to take the square root of both terms. Both terms have to be perfect squares. Okay? And I think part of the reason some of you don't see these when they're, to me they just pop out at my face and I see them. Okay? But I think some of you don't know your perfect squares quite good enough. And so you don't know that you can, it doesn't occur to you, oh wait, I can factor it like that. Okay, so when you take the square root of both terms, what's the square root of x squared? X. Uh-oh, there goes my ID badge making it mess up. Okay, so what's the square root of 16? So you put x and x, and you put a plus 4 and a minus 4. Okay? So what's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of 49? 7. You put a plus 7 and a minus 7. Okay, let's do this one, and we'll skip that one. What's the square root of 9x squared? Okay, what? 3x. 3x. What's the square root of 25? 5 and 5. One's a plus and one's a minus. It doesn't matter. You can do minus over here and a plus over here. Doesn't matter. Okay, so next page. Okay, and we have some more. Do y'all want to do these, or y'all got it? You got it? Okay, so now let's talk about the ones that do start out with a leading coefficient. Okay, what's the leading coefficient here? 3. So, okay, we can't just say what multiplies to 3 that adds to 7. We have to include this 2 right here in our calculations. So we have to multiply the 2 times the 3, and we say what multiplies to 6 that adds to 7. Okay? Can't leave poor little 2 out. So what multiplies to 6 that adds to 7? 6 and 1. Good. Okay, so 2x squared, the 6 and the 1 go in the middle in place of the 7x. Okay? So the 6 and the 1, you have to look and make sure these two terms add up to your middle term, because we're not really changing that problem at all. We've just changed the 7x to something else. So you can't just randomly go, okay, I think I'll use a 3 and a 4. They have to meet the criteria of multiplying to a 6 but adding to a 7. Okay, now you can do the grouping. And y'all are pretty good at grouping once you get to the 4 terms. It's getting y'all from the 3 terms to the 4 terms that I think is the struggle. Okay, so 2x squared and 6x, what do they have in common? What can we divide them both by? A 2 and an x. Okay, a 2 and an x. When we do that, 2x squared divided by x is x, because the 2's cancel out. The x's cancel out here, and you get 3. Okay, what will x and 3 both divide by? 1. Remember, when you can't think of anything, it's going to be a 1. Once in a while, it's a negative 1. Okay, so plus 1, and you get x plus 3. Okay, so then your terms are the 2x and the 1. And your factors are, I shouldn't have said terms, and your x plus 3. Because on this second set over here, the GCF was a 1. So the GCFs of each pair are going down here. Okay? And sometimes they won't divide by something, so it's a 1. Okay? We don't have a lot of room here, so we're going to kind of cram it in here. So 4 times negative 3 is, let's see, 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. What multiplies to negative 12 that adds to 1? We just did it on the very front of the page. 4 times 3, right? So a positive 4 and a negative 3. Okay, I just put them in the middle in place of the 1. Let's check them. Is 4 minus 3 1? 4 minus 3, is it 1? Yes. Okay, so those two make that 1. Okay, and this 4 times negative 3 make a negative 12. Yes, so we did it right. Now it's time to group. Okay, so we're going to group and group. Okay, what will 4x squared and 4x both divide by? A 4x. What will negative 3x and negative 3 both divide by? A negative 3. Okay, I don't know if y'all have noticed yet or not, but this 4x and this negative 3 are going to be one of your terms. Right? And then you can really only have to do one of them. They're both, doing them both kind of helps you check to make sure you get the same thing. Okay, so 4x, and then we get, when we divide these, what do we get? What's 4x squared divided by 4x? X, because the x squareds cancel out. What's 4x divided by 4x? 1. Okay, now negative 3 is our other GCF, so we write it right there. Okay, and then when we divide these, that cancels. That leaves us an x and then a positive 1. Okay, so we know our other term is x plus 1. These right here make the other term. These right here make the first term. Okay? Then you might have a greatest common factor first and then have to factor again. Those are a pain, but they're doable. Okay? So what will 2x squared, 12x, and 14 all divide by? So always be on the lookout for a GCF. Okay? What will they all divide by? A 2. And when we do that, we get x squared plus 6x minus 7. Okay, now this will factor again. Okay, so how do they factor? What multiplies to negative 7 that adds to 6? Multiplies to negative 7 that adds to 6. So a positive 7 and a negative 1. Okay, multiply those together. You do get a negative 7. Add them, you do get a negative 6. Okay? Okay, so that's our answer there. So we get a 2x plus 7 and x minus 1. Okay, don't forget your GCF up here. That's, you know, a big one there. Okay, so what will these both divide by? A 4. Will they all divide by an x? No, they don't have an x, do they? Okay, so don't forget your 4. I like to just go ahead and write it so I don't forget it. Okay, so we get x squared plus what? Oh, they don't all divide by 4, do they? 2. Okay. So, come on, eraser. Okay, so they'll all divide by 2. Okay, so we get a 2, and then what do we get? 2x squared plus 9x plus 9. Okay, now we still have a leading coefficient here. That's kind of a bummer, but we know how to do that. Okay, we have to include that 2 in our calculations. So what is 2 times 9? 18. What multiplies to 18 that adds to 9? 6 and 3. So we put the 6 and the 3 in the middle, and we put the 2x squared and the 9 over here off to the side. And you can stop there and check it. Is 6 times 3 18? Yes. Is 6 plus 3 9? Yes. Now we're ready to do the grouping on it. Okay? Let me move this up a slight bit for you. Okay, so now we're going to group there, group there, group there, group there. Okay, what will 2x squared and 6x both divide by? 2x, good. And when we do that, we get 2x and we get what? X plus 3. Okay, so x plus 3 is probably going to be one of my factors, and I'm going to kind of check it and make sure it's a factor over here before I decide to write it down for my answers. So then plus 3 and x plus 3 when we divide it. Okay, so 2x plus 3 is one of the factors, and good job for me for writing down the GCF first so I didn't forget it. Okay? Okay, so there you have it. Let me see if I can remember how to turn this off. Okay.